the daylight is so special to see. She winds along the coast of California, right there by the sea. A train we remember since 1941, 44, 49, we hope that you'll roll on and on. Your steam comes swirling up like clouds in the sky. And before you know it, the daylight has gone by. All I hear is a fading whistle. Off in the distance she goes. I'll remember the daylight, a train with a name that'll live on forever. The return of the daylight is so special to see. She winds along the coast of California, right there by the sea. A train we remember since 1941, 44, 49, we hope that you roll on and on.
San Francisco, the city by the Golden Gate, the city of cable cars, and the city of the 47-mile SP commuter runs to San Jose in the south. 14 trains a day since the early days of steam. The SP commuter runs are the last vestige of the famed daylight trains operated by the Southern Pacific along this very track southward past San Jose and on into Los Angeles. From San Francisco, the daylight traversed the heartland of California, south of the Bay Area, and rolled along the Pacific coast north of Los Angeles. The northernmost 47 miles of that route is where only the SP commuter remains today. Double-decked commuter coaches are the final spark of passenger service on the SP, which was once represented by the million-dollar train named the Daylight. The railroad has consistently applied to the ICC for the discontinuation of this service, and it seems only reasonable to assume that sometime soon we might be seeing the last of passenger miles being logged by the trains of the Southern Pacific Railroad. Just north of San Luis Obispo on the main line, an SP helper engine returns from the summit at Cuesta Pass on the point of the train which replaced the Daylight, the Amtrak Coast Starlight. A combine of the Daylight and other trains, the Starlight runs the coast route from Los Angeles to Seattle. This southbound section is rounding the famed horseshoe curve on the original Daylight route, just as the GS4 steam trains did in the 1940s on this very same track. From here southward, the tracks meet the Pacific coast at Pismo Beach, running down around Point Conception to Gaviota and Santa Barbara. At Santa Barbara, the northbound Starlight arrives at the station. In a short while, it will meet and pass the southbound unit. The cars on this train were inherited from the SP Daylight trains of the 50s and 60s and were replaced by the Amtrak Superliner cars in 1980. In Ventura, just north of Oxnard on the original route of the Daylight, we see the new Superliner Starlight northbound for Santa Barbara. This train is the latest in the evolution of the train which was the Daylight. Trestle, where Gaviota Creek meets the Pacific, we see the new Superliner Starlight as she heads southward. With all new Pullman cars and sporty SD40 engines, the new train cuts quite a different profile than her sisters of the past. In Balboa Park, near the San Diego Zoo, a tribute to the Daylight still lives on in the park's train ride. This 1/8 scale model of the famed streamliner is headed by gas-driven replicas of the first diesel units that were introduced to the daylight runs in 1954. And so it turns out that 44 years after their introduction, the original daylight colors are still making their daily runs. Los Angeles' Griffith Park Travel Town, a 1/4 scale steam model of the daylight, makes runs on the weekends. This model Pacific type engine was donated to the park by Gene Autry. Nicknamed the Melody Ranch Special, it was painted to replicate the famed daylight runs of the steam era. Originally built for Gene Autry's ranch, it now finds its home on Travel Town's 2/10 mile oval of 1/4 scale track. For many of the passengers on this train, this 1/4 scale model will be all they ever see of the sights and sounds of steam. A small taste of the hissing, spitting, belching, and barking of the giant locomotives of the steam era. It is fitting that at this steam museum, the one engine still maintained and operating carries on the colors of the famed daylight runs of the Southern Pacific. Today, however, just a few short miles away at the Los Angeles Union Station, the Southern Pacific has prepared for us a treat. The last GS4 number 4449 has been decked out in her original daylight colors, returned to Los Angeles from her attendance at the Railfair 81 in Sacramento, and now sits poised for her return run to Portland. She is about to follow the original route of the daylight, north to San Jose, bump to live history. Is extensive, and no detail is overlooked as she assumes her final washdown prior to making this historic trip. Freshly painted and gleaming in original daylight colors, this is the first long-distance service she has seen since her service as the engine of the American Freedom Train in 1976. Renowned as one of the most beautiful steam engines in the world, 4449 never looked better since she was turned out by the Lima Locomotive Works in 1941. Inside 4449's vestibule all-weather cab, the fittings, valves, and appointments are in exquisite condition. An oil burner, and not nearly as dirty as coal-burning types, 4449's cab has the appearance of a newly restored museum piece, rather than a fully functioning and operational engine. With the exception of the natural wood floor and the boiler, all surfaces inside the cab are painted and spotlessly clean, a tribute not only to the Daylights, but also to the men who operate her. The boiler in these GS general service engines generate over 300 pounds per square inch of pressure, enabling these 80-inch drivered, super-powered engines to pull complete trains at over 90 miles per hour. And, as a result, the GS4s held on to the bitter end against the encroachment of diesel power.
Especially when it's spraying water around here to raise the humidity by 5,000 points.
Because 4449 will be making the run north without a load, an SP helper engine has been added for braking and control. 4449, however, is on the point and will be the engine in control. Though we are about to follow 4449 along the original route of the Daylight northwards from Los Angeles, 4449 arrived in Los Angeles from her Portland home by way of the Sacramento Railfair 81 and the opening of the State Railway Museum. Just south of Oxnard, on the original route of the Daylight, 4449 kicks up her heels on the flat. Along the Pacific coast on the original route of the Daylight, just south of Santa Barbara, we catch up with 4449 again. Inaugurated in 1937 by the Southern Pacific, the Daylight trains were the last word in streamlined comfort and beauty, both inside and out. By offering on-time service in luxury and convenience between San Francisco and Los Angeles, with daily trains in both directions, the Daylights competed well against air and surface transportation and were actively patronized by the public. Presenting, as they did, the glamorous image of the last word in rail transportation, the Daylight trains were probably the most popular and photographed streamliners of their day. Two eras cross paths briefly in a historic moment as the Starlight greets the return of the daylight.
Okay, good.
As if to celebrate their historic meet and as a tribute to her 40th year, 4449 crosses the trestle after the Starlight, giving us a display of trestle crossing with style, the way it was done in the age of steam.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, look, Chris. Oh my God.
Forty-four 49 had made this journey in conjunction with the opening of the California State Railway Museum in Sacramento. On her way south, we caught 4449 in Northern California, pulling an excursion train of railfans on their way to the fair in style. The Daylights were a new breed of train with innovations such as reclining seats with foam rubber cushions and 5-foot windows giving unbroken views of the scenery. They opened up a new phase in travel pleasure. The Daylight's image was first class. Snappy diners with specially designed linen and silverware were graced with distinctive and modern furniture. As advertised, the southbound Daylight would treat supper diners with this gorgeous view, along with the comfort and luxury of first-class travel. There must have been a sadness at the destination just having to get off and end such an enjoyable ride. We too must say farewell to the Daylight and to engine number 4449. Having provided us with a sterling performance, we wish her well and a safe journey home, with thanks to the thoughtful generosity of the people of Portland.